Hello there, how are you? Welcome back to How I Did It. Today I'm going to be replacing the fuel pump in my Toyota RV. Now, first thing I need to do is disconnect the battery, and I decided to go at this from the top, so I drilled a hole in the floor of the toy, and now I'm going to cut a hole out bigger to get this fuel pump out. You can see the fuel pump right here. It's bad. I checked my relays and my fuses, they're all good. So from the step right here, going over from the actual trim over, it is 11 1/8. I probably could have done it at 11 and then 20 inches. But this is where I just stopped it. I may have to go bigger, we'll see. And then from side to side, right now the hole is going to be approximately 10 1/8, 10 1/4. So we'll see. I'm going to circular saw it, cut out the metal sheathing that's under there, see if I can get that thing to slide out. Because as you can see, it's loose. Now here I'm just making a point of showing the saw blade. Make sure your saw blade depth is set up in a manner that you're not going to cut through into some important stuff below it. And then a simple plunge cut. I'm going to go ahead and cut this on all four sides with that plunge cut, and then I will use the sawzall or reciprocating saw to clean up those corners and pull this straight out. Again, I'm using extreme care, making sure I don't hit the tank, I don't hit any wires or any of the metal gas line that is underneath there. And then here I'm just trying to figure if I'm going to be able to get it out before I go through the trouble of cutting through the sheet metal with my tin snips. Sharp edges, oh my goodness, such sharp edges. This actually took quite a while trying to work around the edges the way that they were set up. It kind of blocked everything. But eventually, perseverance pays off, and I was able to get all that tin cut free. Alright, the moment of truth. Oh, sweet. So, if you're needing to do the fuel pump, and this is an 89 Toyota RV, this is the 3.0, the hole I had to cut to make easy access to it, not have to drop my tank, not have to drain my fuel, blah blah blah, was 10 3/8 by 8 5/8. Okay guys, I'm back from O'Reilly's. They are the bomb. They ended up, I took this with me, thank goodness I did, because the computer called for two different types. One fuel pump just had this, and then my fuel pump had the pump itself, and then this solenoid, I guess, with this pigtail, and that's what the new kit came with. So it is time to get this stuff all connected and see if we can't get this bad boy running. Alright, so the two part numbers are S13025 and E16051 for 1989 Toyota pickup dually. And this is the sock that goes on the bottom. So this is, and this is the fuel pump. Pretty cool. And that's the rest of the stuff in there. And directions. And I'm going to take a break and read the directions, and then I'll be back. Okay, I'm back. I ended up speeding it up I'm not saying that your fuel pump won't be the same or different as mine. I'm just saying read the directions and assemble it. Those two gaskets there, they were wrong. My gasket for the fuel pump is actually a flat gasket rather than that ring type. My old gasket actually was in pretty good shape, so I just went ahead and used it again. Now once I disconnected this fuel line from this, I could just gently slide it off. Make sure you're careful with this. You know, with the age of these, everything has a tendency to be brittle under there. And then the fuel pump just simply unplugs from it. Now I reworked that wire harness on there a little bit just to try to clean it up. Make sure you pay attention to your wire orientation and make sure you take the time to mark your wires. Now you'll notice in just a little bit I ended up stopping the camera and just putting red electrical tape on all the positive wires. Alright, so here I'm just pulling out that fuel pump sock. This has like a little plug in it. At first I tried to put it on with that plug in and it didn't work. It's like, okay, what a dork. So I go back, I end up pulling that plug out, and this little ring, don't lose this, this presses on, and that's what holds that fuel pump sock in place. Simply sits on there, and then that little silver ring presses down over the, I don't know what you want to call it, you'll see it. It's coming up. I don't know the technical terms on this, guys. I'm just winging this as I go. So that just kind of sits on there like that there. Push it down in, make sure everything's snug. And then where I'm playing around with my thumbs right there, that's where that silver ring is going to go. It's a retaining ring. Now, to get it to push down on, my thumbs weren't strong enough. And so I ended up having to use a real small socket, and that socket enabled me to actually press it down on there evenly where it needed to be. So see here, I temporarily kind of got it started. I just couldn't get it, so I used a socket, the small end of the socket I put over the end of it, squeezed it down on there, and it set it nice and perfect for me. Yeah, there we go. I am happy. So far, so good, right? I didn't break anything at least. Thank goodness. Now this kit here, because of that electric plug on the back, it was a little bit more expensive than the standard kit. These in here. I went ahead and heat shrink these. I marked it with red so I know which one goes to what. The blacks are all grounds. So we have 3 grounds. This one off this little solenoid. This pigtail portion, and then the ground on the actual fuel pump itself. So fuel pump's going to sit on here like this, so we'll have all the negatives going to this side, and then the positive will feed around the other side. I went ahead and put this in here as well. This doesn't serve anything more than it's just a chafing pad. I noticed that this pickup tube here, or the feeder tube, was resting on this bracket, and it looked like it may have been wearing a little bit. So I put that rubber hose in there just kind of as a chafing pad. Alright, I'm going to get these crimped together and then I'll come back. And again, I sped this up. You know, if I had left it running normal speed, this thing, you know, probably would have ended up being over an hour long. This is just showing me assembling it after I had crimped the wires together. You know, my thought process on it is, worst case scenario, I'll have to have it towed and hire somebody to fix it. You know, maybe I'll cause a smidge more damage, or maybe I'll actually just get it running and save several $100s. Plus, the funny part about this fuel pump, the old pump actually turned on. You could hear it running. So, but all the relays checked out, all the fuses checked out, the electronic fuel ignition, the main relay, everything checked out. So it was only left to it being the fuel pump. And when I pulled that fuel pump out and it actually ran and moved fuel, I got a little bit nervous. But basically it was $80 some for the fuel pump and this sock, and with the help of the wonderful staff at O'Reilly's, yeah, my confidence level went way up. Now, to fix the hole in the floor, my intention is to have a piece of steel about an inch further than the perimeter of the hole itself. Router the edge down in so that steel will sit recessed, put a couple of screws in it, and then I will have a perfect access port in the future. Okay, y'all, the next step is to make sure you put this O-ring on, or the gasket on, prior to trying to reassemble your fuel pump down in there. If you don't, obviously it's not going to tighten down in properly. It was kind of a little bit of a stinker. It's actually hole specific, so there is 2 holes on this gasket that are further offset than the rest of them. So I spent a little while fudging this thing around and whatnot. I wanted to show it just kind of to hit the importance home. Also, you want to remember that down inside your fuel tank there's like a chamber, like a little fuel chamber, that sock is going to sit down into. So when you put your fuel pump down in here, one, it's only going to go in a certain way, but the other thing is you want to make sure that you line it up as it's going in, so that sock will sit down in the little holding fuel chamber pit area in there. And we're just going to curl this down in here. Nice and easy like that. And then it's got to go over into that little pan. There we go. There we go. Beautiful. Okay, just a heads up. What I ended up having to do, and I think it's because the gasket was an older gasket and had shrunk somewhat, I had to go ahead and put the screws through the top of the fuel pump through the opening in, or the hole in the gasket, and then setting it down and then tightening them down. Again, using a crisscross pattern, kind of how you do when you're putting a tire on your car. You don't want to crank one down all the way and then go crank another one. You kind of get them started and then go back, snug them up, and then give it that final torque, getting it tight. This is what worked the best. I would say I probably spent easily 10 to 15 minutes prior to figuring out doing it this way. And this way, once I started it, it was just a piece of cake. No hassle, no fuss, no muss. A lot of it, I find that it's just a matter of taking your time and being patient. And the other thing that I used there, you'll notice in my hand, it's a electric probe. I put that in to kind of force that gasket, even with the screw opening. And then I started out by doing lefty-loosey, get it seated into the threaded area, and then going ahead and tightening it down, and then again alternating a crisscross pattern to get it snugged in and then get it the final torque. I didn't have my Chilton's book with me, so I have no clue what the actual torque is supposed to be on these, but I did it with my girly girl arthritic hands, and then I went ahead and took my battery operated drill and gave it another one extra squeeze on the trigger just to get it firmed up and snugged down in there, mainly because I didn't use any Loctite. I wish I had went ahead and purchased the blue, which is just a real light case of it, just to keep these from potentially vibrating out. But all in all, it went back in there pretty smooth with me having this access panel. If anything does inadvertently go wrong with it, it'll be just a matter of pulling a couple of screws out, and I'm right down in there where I can access thing and get to things. Now I finished tightening things up. I did drop one screw and have to go back underneath the frame of the RV and find it. Once I got it, brought it up, connected it. I actually thought my camera was still running, and it was not. So I reconnected all of my lines, made sure everything was snugged up, good to go, and then I went ahead and refilled only 5 gallons worth of fuel. And I did not show myself taking the old fuel out. You know, it's kind of redundant. Once you get that fuel pump out of there, you can actually put this little Harbor Freight fuel pump in there and pump away. It's totally awesome. Here we go. Will it start? Alrighty, alrighty, alrighty. Isn't that awesome? Where's my headlights? There we go. So, 89 Toyota Dolphin, mileage 70,685, brand new fuel pump installed and ready to go. Thanks for stopping by. Y'all have a wonderful and blessed day.